your mind.
Good evening, it's Open Your Mind Internet Radio, and you have myself, Alan James.
And you have myself, Stephen George. A very good evening.
Good evening, it's Sunday the 7th of July 2013. We're going to try and do a little bit of something we've never done before, is simulcasting tonight with Blogtalk Radio over in America. With Denise, who's the producer, and Drake, obviously, is going to be the guest on the show. And that will be at about 1:15. We're aiming to do that. Now, we haven't done this before, so we'll just see how we get on. But for the time being, Steve, do you want to give us the communication channels?
Okay, Mary, how can people communicate with us this fine evening?
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you very much. 04692711212 is the phone number, and if you're ringing in from outside the Republic of Ireland, it's 00353 in front of that. Alan.
Steve, it's a fine evening, and I'm sure there's a lot of people outside enjoying the weather and make the most of it, but we will have this on podcast anyway. Well, we're going to go through a few things anyway before we get Drake and Denise in about 1:15. As usual, we're going to be catching up on a few things. And today, if you haven't realised, is the anniversary of the 7/7 bombings, because today is July the 7th, and obviously it happened in 2005. July 7th is when the bombings happened. I was actually living in London at the time, so I remember it very well. Lucky enough, I wasn't in work that day because I would have had to go into London. So, so just to mention, our condolences to the families that lost people on that, and we all know that it was kind of a setup anyway, and it wasn't the four guys. We know that it was actually an inside job for whatever reason they did it for. But as we say, our best regards and our sympathies for the families that lost loved ones on the bombings. It was an inside job, as I said. But the other thing that was on the news during the week as well was, get this, former bank executives may face a ban from the central bank. So with all what the bankers have did in Ireland and all the damage they've done and the lives they've destroyed and the families they've destroyed, according to the central bank, the bank executives may face a ban. Well, gee whiz, I bet they are crapping themselves. What do you think, Steve?
It beggars belief. We said it before, on this show, that in other countries, the bankers do something like that. I know we always refer to Iceland as kind of a role model because, well, Iceland, Ireland is one letter in the difference. But they mess around with that over there. They're taken to task, and they reap what they sow, basically. But over here, Jesus Christ, it's unreal.
It is unreal.
As we said there during the week as well, if this thing ever does go to trial, I know there's people bandying a thing about statute of limitations, which is about to run out on the whole banking thing. But if it is taken to trial, they'll probably get a slap on the wrist, a promotion, a raise, and told, don't do that again, you ball boy.
Yeah, definitely. But that's how kind of soft we are with these bankers. So something has to be done. The other thing that we were looking at during the week, Dublin says no. The group Dublin says no. Apparently, Minister Howlin tried to grab the camera off one of the members. And you see him walking down the road with, I don't know whether it was a bodyguard or some other guy with him.
I'd say it's his bodyguard.
Probably a bodyguard. And there he was, clicking his fingers at the guard. Guard, this man is asking me questions, And I think, how arrogant is that? Where does he think he is? Clicking his fingers at the guard. Who does he think he is?
He thinks he's Mr. Brendan Howlin. That's who he thinks he is. He obviously, in his world, he's a man of some considerable importance.
Yeah, I know. And just to mention there from Crown Copyright that Ben was at the auctions. Obviously, everybody's heard about the Allsop auctions, and they were cancelled. Fair play to everybody who went down and joined in and said what they had to say and closed down the auctions, because that's just too bad. I don't know why, and I was just thinking this when I was watching the video. I don't know why nobody kind of turned around to the people in the audience or the people who were there buying it and said, shame on you for buying the property of other Irish people that have lost the property due to what the banks were doing. This is the I'm okay Jack, I mean, if there was Irish people there in the audience, shame on them for turning up and doing that. You know, so that's, I'm surprised it wasn't said, but there you go. You know, I suppose in heat of the moment, you know, you can't think of these things. It's only after. Hindsight is a great thing. But fair play for them for going in anyway and doing what they did. Fair play to them for doing that. And the auctions were stopped.
Yeah, and proper order too, because I mean, as I was always told growing up, that it's wrong. It's wrong, you know, if you know someone has stolen something and then you buy stolen goods, you're in receipt of stolen goods. And I'm sorry, but when the banks are doing all this and clamping down and evicting people from their homes because they can't afford to pay their mortgage, that to me is the same as stealing. And so the people who go in and buy these homes, they, you know, it's wrong. It's morally wrong on many levels.
Yeah, exactly. So, pretty bad. I don't know what Allsop are going to be doing with the auctions, but, you know, I'm sure if any more come around, people will actually go down. And something I'm going to be talking about protesting shortly. But another thing that I want everybody to be aware of, and this came to light during the week, and I'm sure you probably heard this as well, and we have mentioned this before. You know how bad, how conniving some of these people are in the powers to be, and what they'll do. They'll do anything to stitch somebody up. Well, you probably heard that during the week, Luke Radowski. Now, we've interviewed Luke on OYM. We have the interview on YouTube. And Luke basically was sent an email through his old college email address, or his old school email address, from apparently, it's supposed to be a Blindenberg whistleblower. And he sent an email to Luke, and there was attachments on it. And the attachments basically said that there were photos of the people at the Blindenberg meeting. Now, for whatever reason, Luke didn't open up the email on his laptop. He used somebody else's. And with Yahoo email, it obviously has a preview option before you download. And of course, needless to say, when he opened up one of the images, it was kiddie porn, child porn. So the whole idea was that if Luke did this on his laptop, and then he went back to America, they would have took his laptop and said, you had this on your laptop, it was a plant, and they would have arrested him, and of course they would have put it in the papers, you know, shooter caught with, excuse me, I have a bad cough, shooter caught with kiddie images, porn images on his laptop. So I will say to everybody, and from OYM's point of view as well, when we ask people to send in links to us, we won't be opening any attachments for obvious reasons. Send in, you know, you can send in an email of information and we can check the link, but any attachments we're not going to open. For the simple reason is, for this reason. And everybody else who's in the truth movement should be on the guard as well, because this is what they do. This is what they're doing. They're playing dirty. And this is the type of thing they were doing. And fair play to Luke. He actually did a video straight away to expose what they did, to cover himself, just in case. So just be careful with what emails you get in and attachments, and make sure, if you don't know who they are, who the person is, double check or ring them up or delete it. But definitely don't open them up, you know, because it could be something that, it could be a plant. Okay, so just be careful with that. The other thing I was going to talk about was, well done to Egypt. The Egyptian people and the police and the military. Would you call it a coup, or would you call it just the people, democracy, you know, power to the people for taking over the government?
Absolutely. I call it a mass awakening. I think that's what it really is. It's the people really waking up.
What's the chance of that happening in Ireland, do you think?
None whatsoever.
None?
No. Bar the few people that are already awake, I don't think so. Now,
there was mention of one of the guys who was involved, one of the guys who removed the president, had some links to the US. Now, I don't know how many links, or what links he has to the US, but that was actually said on, I believe, Russia Today. So, you know, again, was this something that was planned? Was the US behind this again? But you never know. But then again, what happened with the president of Libya when his plane was ordered to land? And, you know, I mean, they should have international diplomacy, and they have, they shouldn't be allowed to actually tell the president of Bolivia to force his plane to land, because even if he had Ed Snowden on the plane, which he didn't, they shouldn't be able to force him to land. because they all have diplomatic immunity. Well, at least he thought he had diplomatic immunity, but unfortunately he obviously doesn't. And now the Latin American countries are now getting together and giving out to the US about what's going on. So that's brilliant. That's another kind of kick in the nuts for the US. I have to say that. Right, and the other thing, before a few more minutes, the other thing I want to put out there for people, we know there's an awful lot of protests going on, and a lot of it is focused down in Dublin, with Tony Rochford and a few other groups doing stuff. And to be honest with you, for people outside of Dublin, there's a lot of reasons why we can't down. It could be dodgy transport, it could be having no money for the diesel, it could be kids, it could be whatever the reason. There's a number of reasons why. So I was just thinking, why can't we organise localised protest groups, a localised protest in each county, so people don't have to travel far to go to the local protest? Now, I don't know how people feel about that, but, you know, I know for one that if there's a local protest locally, I would definitely, go to it because it's local. It doesn't take much petrol to get there because money's tight for everybody. So I don't know what people think. If there's anybody looking to do that, or there's anybody doing it already, then it might be handy to, get a group together to do it, and it'd be pretty good if we did something like that. So that'd be fantastic if we did that. But so what do you think of that, getting localised groups, Steve?
I think it's a good idea, but I think, as we can all agree, the people who, if they had done that inside the likes of Turkey or Brazil or whatever, had local protests, I don't know if it would have made as much of an impact as the mass protest. I think it's always good if people really feel peed off badly enough about something. I think it is very important that they should make the time, make the effort, and get to one of the big protests, because I think it's only when no disrespect to your idea, but little local fragmented groups and little protests, it does work. I think it's handy for local people to get to. But it's when you see the streets of a country and they're full to the brim with people, and you know that there's in excess of X amount of million people there, I think it's only then that you can really see the true nature of how peed off people really are. But then again, if you can't, if for whatever reason logistically you cannot get to a mass protest in the likes of, say, Dublin city centre, well then, yeah, local protests are a good way too of finding out who in your locality, in your location, your town, your village, is also on the same frequency, same wavelength, and people kind of the same mindset as yourself. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Even local groups getting together and deciding what you're going to do, even if it's going down and protesting outside the local TD office, or going into the TD, which is what they did down in Cork, I believe, and that went down pretty well. There's a video of them doing it. So, because we know we've done the mass protests, we've done the 100,000 plus. I was there when we did it in the January 2 years ago. Yeah. Jim Corr was there, and the Salvinder guys were there, and there was a few other people there, and it was like over 100,000 easy. And whatever came of that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
It was, as we said before, it's a great kind of thing. The Irish people, they can go to a protest, they all get riled up, and they go for the hour or the 2 hours, and they have their rally and a bit of a protest, a song and a dance, scream from the rooftops, and then they kind of, it's time to go now, and they go home and have the dinner and go, well, that's me done now. I've done my bit for the protest. But that's great short term, but I think in long term we have to do what they have done in another country. I can't remember the name of the country, where was it China or Japan or something, where they actually go out for the long haul with the backpacks on and food for a couple of
Korea.
days. Korea, was it? Yeah. I knew it was like an Asian country.
3 days, yeah.
I think that's what really needs to happen.
Yeah.
Then again, in my honest opinion, and that may not be the opinion of OYM or anyone who we simulcast or stream on, my opinion is that we need to just go into the Dáil, get the people who are in there, the people who are running this country, into the ground. We need to absolutely forcefully evict them and take over. That's just my opinion. Definitely.
I think something has to be done anyway. But barring that, local protest groups. Steve, do you want to give Denise a nod there and tell her that we'll bring her in now if she's available?
I've already done that.
So are we ready to go then?
Just let me check.
Okay, Steve's going to check. We get Denise in. We actually haven't done this before. We're going to be broadcasting on Blogtalk Radio, as well as obviously OYM and the other stream on MSI, and obviously a UWS as well. So loads of streams going on tonight. So we're going to, and Drake, basically what happened, Drake runs his show at this time every Sunday over on Blog Talk Radio, and there was a clash. So we said, well, let's try and hook up with the two radio stations and see if we can do something, see if we can sort something out. And so this is a kind of force for us to do this. So fingers crossed if we can get them in.
Yeah, they're on a music break now at the moment.
Okay, brilliant. So let's get them in then, shall we?
Okay.
Oh, there's the music. Okay, we'll do you want to ask them to let us know when the music break is over, and we'll come in after?
She says 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
3 minutes. Can we talk for 3 minutes and 30 seconds?
Well, we can boil an egg and then talk for 30 seconds.
Okay, we have a couple of confirmations on guests on the show as well. I'm pleased to announce. We're going to have Ricky Simpson on the show. We're going to be talking about hemp oil and all stuff with Ricky Simpson. And today we also got confirmation. We're just waiting on a date from Abby Martin. Now, Abby Martin, for people who don't know her, she's a journalist on Russia Today, and she is fantastic at what she does, and she just comes out and tells you what's going on. And she's just, dead straight. She just calls it the way it is, and I have to give her a lot of respect for what she does. So basically, we've asked Abby to come on the show, and she's agreed to come on the show. So we're just sorting a date out with Abby to get her on. And that'd be fantastic if she comes on, because there's an awful lot going on at the moment. And I know I mentioned it before, but if you haven't seen... excuse me, I have a bit of a bad cough.
I think you might want to get that frog seen to.
I think I have to. If you haven't seen Russia Today, yeah, copyright Abby from Russia Today, yeah. If you haven't seen Breaking the Set, yeah, that's her. Yeah, the whole program's called Breaking the Set. If you haven't seen Russia Today, I would recommend... switching on Russia Today if you have Sky. It's on Freeview, because they really tell you what's going on. And you've seen her, so Crown Copyright seen her at the Blinderberg a few years ago. Did you? I'm just wondering, Crown Copyright, did you see her at the Blinderberg doing the interviews with Russia Today, or actually in the Blinderberg? Oh, you watched her. Okay, when I say seen, I mean watch her on the Luke's screen. Okay, he was watching her on Luke's stream. Okay, that's interesting, yeah. But the information she does talk about was very good, very good. So how are we doing, Steve?
We're doing okay. We're still waiting for the nod.
Okay,
she's gonna give us a shout and let us know at about 30 seconds to go, so we can prepare.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, is there any other stuff on the news that's out there? Well, definitely Egypt. And Iceland's done it. Egypt have doing well. Apparently, I've seen information regarding South Korea. And they're up in arms now. Wherever they're doing, they're sitting down and having a protest as well. I've seen some photographs regarding that as well. So obviously South Korea doing it, and then, as I say, the Latin American countries are coming out. Now it's gas that was on the news was that the European countries were giving out about the America and the NSA spying on them, and it's now come out that France has been doing it for years to the French people. So they've been spying on their people, and yet they didn't say anything, and they looked, they were disgusted at the fact that NSA were actually tapping into their systems and recording them. And then it turns out that the French are doing it to their own people. So I don't know. I really don't know. That's the way things are. But it's funny how the Latin American countries are standing up to America, and they're looking at Europe and saying they're all kowtowing. But we're going to try and bring Denise and Drake in now. So, hello, Denise and Drake, are you there?
Okay, Denise is here. I'm opening up Drake's microphone.
Excellent.
And Grammy J.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you're with us. Okay, we're all connected, I do believe.
Brilliant.
And hi, welcome to the program, Alan and Steve, both.
Welcome, Denise
Thank
and
you.
Drake. And we just said to our listeners that this is the first time we actually did something like this, where we're simulcasting on two radio shows live at the same time. So, we talked about this during the week about the technicalities, and I'm pleased to say that the two of us worked it out and got it sorted. So it's very good, and it's great to have the two of you on.
Great to have you with us, too. And apologize for my laryngitis today. I want to let Alan, if you would let our listeners know where to find you on the Internet, and maybe how they can connect also to your program, because we have kind of an overload, and people have trouble with our players, so maybe they'll have better luck through you.
Yeah, that's no problem, yeah. Well, we are Open Your Mind Radio. OYMradio.com is the website. And we stream, we've 2 streams in Ireland and 1 stream in the States. So if you're having trouble with your listeners getting on, if they pop over to www.oymradio.com, and there's 3 players on the left-hand side, and they can pick whichever player they want, and they'll be able to hear the show on that, Denise.
Okay, yes, that's www.OYM, stands for Open Your Mind Radio. Okay, it's OYMradio.com.
That's correct. That's right.
Okay, and I'm going to, since I have laryngitis today, I think I am going to mute myself and let you conduct your portion of the interview, and I'm going to drink lots of tea with honey, and hopefully when you're completed with your interview, then we can finish up with some of our listener questions during the last hour of our program.
Brilliant.
So I will welcome you once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alan and Steve from OYM Radio in Ireland.
That's great. Thanks, Denise. Listen, take care of that throat of yours. It's
okay, thank you.
Yeah, don't stress it too much. Thanks everybody for tuning in to OYM Radio, and to our listeners on OYM. That's Denise, who runs Blogtalk Radio, and it's a regular show that Denise does with Drake on a Sunday. But the main man that we need to speak to here is Drake. Good evening, Drake. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Now, the last time we hooked up, Drake, was...
I'm looking forward to this in some ways. I understand Ireland's been getting the short end of the stick for some time now, and there are quite a few people that are really concerned about that.
Yeah,
we'll see how that pans out. I know that Neil Keenan and I are going to pay special attention to several countries, yours included, that are not only desirous of our assistance, but do need it. So everybody might want to bear that in mind.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think in Ireland we are suffering from really bad austerity at the moment. Things are getting worse. And it's across Europe. I mean, I'm sure you...
Alan?
Yeah, can you hear us okay?
Oops. Oops.
Yeah, can you hear us, Drake? Yeah.
I hope he didn't get knocked off.
No, he's still connected. He just might be they're having weather problems up where he's at as well today too. So, Drake, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you hear Alan now?
Drake, can you hear us?
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you can hear us okay, can you?
Can you hear him okay, Drake?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. You're back.
Okay, good stuff. All right, Drake. Yeah, we're having major austerity issues over here in Ireland. And obviously...
Something just clicked and you went silent, Alan.
Yeah, it seems to be kind of a clicking noise there. Don't know whether you can get that, Denise.
Okay, let me. I guess if I leave my mic open, maybe Drake can hear you. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can you hear him now, Drake?
Can you hear me, Drake?
Yeah, I hear you fine right now. Maybe that's what it is.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know why my muting my microphone would have you not hear him, but go ahead.
Okay.
There's a glitch.
No, we're not
Okay.
worried. It's just a glitch, but that's great, Denise. If you can leave the mic open there, that would be fine.
Okay.
Drake, can you hear us? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, we are suffering from mass austerity over here in Ireland, and things are pretty bad. But it's across Europe, as you probably well know. Now, the last time we had you on was around October. I think about October last year, something like that, September, October. And we said we'd do a part 2.
Yeah.
And obviously last year was pre-recorded, but we are actually live now, which is great. And we have our users in our chat room, and I'm sure there's going to be questions coming in for you. But can you give us an update on a current update on what's going on? Because there's an awful lot of talk about this thing called the event, and I keep hearing about the event, but nobody can tell me what the event is.
Actually, there's three of them. One event is the financial freedom that is coming to everybody. The other one is the reset of governments worldwide. And the third one, which I consider the event, is the transition that our planet is supposed to go through from one-dimensional area to another.
Right, okay. And, I hate to mention times, but because it's more windows of opportunity rather than dates and times, because you don't want to be stuck to dates and times. But apparently there should be things happening within the next 3 months to the end of the year.
Yeah, basically the general time frame is between fall of this year and spring of next year. As the true reality of the event gets closer, that time frame will be more narrow. You get down to months, you get down to weeks, you get down to days. And so far, it has not budged, even though we have started what is called the readiness part of the situation involved. This has not done anything to the what would be termed probabilities involved, and yet we look at it and we know things have happened, and yet the general time frame as far as humans consider time has not changed.
Okay.
It's changed, it's altered and moved around a little bit as far as true time is concerned, but it still is not, it hasn't landed anywhere in specific as of yet. And the time frame as we see it, fall to spring, somewhere in that area, is when it's supposed to take place.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's fine. So you're saying there's three things that are going to happen with the event. And can you tell us more about this energy change? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, I know quite a bit about it. It's called the transition. I'm trying to think here. It is a natural progression. It is an evolutionary event that takes place at one time or another on all planets. Not all at once, but on all planets. And what happens is that the vibratory rate and frequency and waveform of the basis for physics alters itself. Now, what this means is that some of the things that we consider sort of absolute in terms of laws of physics are due to change. That does not necessarily mean that all of them will be an extreme change. In other words, people won't start floating away as such.
Okay.
But the physical changes include a combination of physical energy. In other words, each and every last thing that is not at absolute zero moves. Thus, it creates a vibration and has a vibrational signal. The other part is that this is true in atomic physics, which makes up chemistry, which makes up most biological functions known to man. Those biological functions will go through the same types in terms of generalities, the same sorts of, I would say, extraordinary changes as would the fundamentals of matter, physics, and things of that nature. So there's going to be a combination of physical changes and as well biological changes. Now, the third part of it is that as the energies and waveforms and things of that nature of the biological entity change, so does its spiritual orientation. Meaning that each individual, to include cognizant animals, are actually going to come to a point where you might be able to talk to your dog or cat. Farm animals might say, "Man, don't take me to the slaughter. I don't want to go," or whatever comes up. There will be lesser of a need for physical interactions than have had than in the future than we'll have had happening in the past. In other words, right now you're much more physically oriented in this change after a, quote, transition from one type to another type. You will be less physically oriented and more spiritually or energy oriented, which is going to make some changes. There's going to be changes in fundamental basic materials. There's going to be fundamental changes in people's attitudes, not only towards themselves, but towards everything, to include existence itself. The capabilities of each individual will be increased and are starting to increase now. People are getting physical results as we start getting ready for the transition period of time. In other words, the closer we get, the more the energy changes, and the more the energy changes, the more your psychic abilities or spiritual abilities become pronounced, the more that you are aware of things that you weren't aware of before, your dream and sleep patterns, your eating patterns. A lot of things are due to change because of this. Okay?
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, okay, what about the financial system? Because we keep hearing about the issues that, the euro's gone over here and they're just kicking the can down the road as far as when it comes to liquidity and the banks kind of, just kicking the can down the road, trying to balance all the plates, because we know that the euro is broken. I mean, it's dead in the water, but for some reason they keep, telling us that it's not. What's going on with that at the moment, in Europe?
Well, several things. First of all, the kicking the can down the road is not going to be an option, but for short term. And by short term, I mean month, maybe at the most. There have been there's been more than one, but there's been several institutions over there that have been specifically supporting the euro because that's what they were designed to do. The artificial support, as you can see, there's an infusion of value, and yet because it is a consumer-type financial system, as is ours, a little bit different in some ways, but not much, the equity or true asset value starts becoming depleted. And its depletion causes the euro to fluctuate in its value in relation to other currencies. Most of the real valued currencies are of a type that don't fluctuate very much. And those are the ones that would be, as such, the better bet than either our, Federal Reserve note, the dollar, the euro. There's several that are not as such based in realistic values. And due to that fact, you have a continual rise and fall. Now, at one point or another, the assets backing the euro are going to begin to falter. Whether that is intended to protect the entity that's been providing the supports, where they say, no, I can't do anymore, or how that exactly will work is still up in the air some. The basis of it, or what will come out of it, is simply that the euro in and of itself needs to be watched very closely. it may, at any given point, take an extraordinary dive in value. That happened in Germany at one point, and they were using the currency for firewood, paper walls, that sort of thing. It's happened here before, where we had some extreme financial problems. Now, the thing about this is that most countries, even though they are members of the European Union, have decided, in I think a really good move, to have their old currencies on hand, so that if the euro goes to whatever, say nothing or close to it, they can reissue Deutschmark or whatever it might be in terms of a home country's currency, and thus not lose everything financially. And I understand that quite a few of the European countries are set to do exactly that if the time comes that it's required.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Because obviously we're hearing things obviously over this side regarding the euro, and certain things that they're talking about. Like we have an MP called Nigel Farage from UKIP, is over in the UK, and he's an MEP in Brussels, and he tends to attack, which is good. He's on YouTube. You can actually you can Google him on YouTube, go on to YouTube, and just do a search for Nigel Farage, and he tends to attack the bureaucracy over there in Brussels, which is very good. But Drake, I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve has a few questions now coming in from our listeners, and we'll go through them. So over to you, Steve.
Okay, just in relation to the currency, Drake, we have a comment in from Kelt. Kelt just says that from what he heard, that he assumes that the event was going to be a currency reset. What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, yeah, there's two factions right now. One is the aligned nations, and one is the unaligned nations. The unaligned nations control the world's wealth. The collateral accounts that are required to produce currencies have been cut off from the aligned nations. Thus, they have to survive on what they have available. And there's no way for them to get around it. And there's no way for them to get past it. And consequently, you have them being very careful about exactly what they do, the manner in which they do it, and what the conditions of any deals might be. This helps. It looks more like they're trying to protect what's going on than is, in my opinion, the truth. The truth of the matter is that differing countries want to protect their own, and consequently, if the European Union's currency, the euro, becomes a consummate problem, not only will they drop the euro, but also their membership. And this is one of the great concerns that the European Union has right now. Okay?
Yeah, I think that definitely answers that one. Next one, which is also from Kelt, he's just wondering, Drake, can you please ask Drake about the 15,000 Russian troops in FEMA Region 3? He goes on to say that the DHS signed an agreement this week.
Well, I've addressed that to an extent. On any given day, you have up to 250,000 foreign troops, boots on the ground, in the United States alone. There is and has been a military exchange program going on where people need to be schooled in terms of operation and proficiency with modern, up-to-date equipment, whether they have it themselves or not. And consequently, most of these people are learning the combination of that. The other part of it is the actual physical exercise training programs that are might be advanced in some ways where theirs may not be, or theirs may be more advanced than ours in some way. We learn from each other. We exchange information. We find out how to produce the best soldier possible. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, no problem at all. Now, one of the things I want to touch base with you on, Drake, is the the OPPT, because we heard a lot over the last few months. We heard a lot about the OPPT and about what they were planning to do and all this courtesy letters that you send off to people. Now, initially it sounded brilliant, but we had a lady on the show called Tommy Pepperman, which was telling us that actually it wasn't what they say it was. And I know I watched the video with Neil Keenan, and he was talking about it as well. So for people who actually didn't see the videos, do you want to touch base on OPPT and I won't say who they are, but what they were doing and why you don't think that, well, as far as I know, you don't feel that OPPT is legit?
Well, actually, it's fairly simple if you understand law. If you understand what the law stipulates, and then you read their supposed documents, you'll find that there's no actionable sections in their dissertation legally. It's not possible to cause someone to do something without what's called actionable clauses in whatever your either founding documents or legal statements may be. And so that's one part of the problem with them. The second part is that they do not have any assets other than what they glean from people on the internet saying, "Oh, we need money. Chip me in a couple $100." The other part is that none of their offices exist. So, to me, what you've got is an internet fraud. To me, what you've got is something to bilk innocent people out of their money. They'll say that they're going to give you 2, 3, 4, 6 million, whatever, and the check's in the mail. And yet, nobody, and I have some people that are well aware that I will not divulge who they are. They were promised things that have not materialized as of yet, and they're beginning to wonder if they expect to ever see them materialize. The problem is that along with OPPT, you have Legal Wanta, you have a variety of people out there that would love to get their hands in the cookie jar. Crawford is one. I'm trying to think. Keith Scott's another. These people are all simply trying to get their hands on the cash. No other ulterior motive but then to enrich themselves at whatever expense doesn't matter. The second part of this is that you have certain individuals involved that would like to set themselves up because they would then have the financial authority to rule over people, to be treated as an oligarch, etc. And this is the last thing that Neil Keenan and I are looking to allow. We are fighting tooth and nail and won't give up. And right now we're basically winning the fight. We've had some setbacks here and there, interruptions, and most of it due to OPPT, which has changed its name because it's trying to hide to Swiss Indo. It supposedly had offices in Jakarta, and there's a problem with that because those offices don't exist. Not only did Neil tell me that, he went to the office building, as you have seen possibly on one of the videos, and the ladies there never heard of it. People were supposed to have offices in D.C. They don't exist either. They're supposed to have offices in a couple of other foreign countries. I did some checking, and I have yet to find legitimacy anywhere, but most specifically in their paperwork. If you really read that, and you know what you're reading at all, there's no actionable clauses anywhere in their basic paperwork. So that means that they are basically invalid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, this is what we heard, because there was an OPPT group on Facebook, and there was all these people saying, I'm opting in, I'm opting in. And I was thinking, why should you need to opt in to anything? And that group now has disappeared.
Well, you don't. If people take a close look, there's a thing called NOSARA, and what it does is the legal basis for debt and currency and a few other things are contained within some of its provisions. What it does basically is that it alleviates the falsehood that has been perpetrated upon most people through financial institutions as to debt. We are not in debt. We, the people, are not in debt to the federal government. The federal government holds its own debt. We do have some debt, but not near what they have accrued. The idea that you go to a bank or a mortgage company and take out a mortgage or apply for one is bogus. The originator of the credit is the signator. The person that signs the paperwork is the originator of the credit, is the originator of the funds involved in purchases of real estate, etc. Each individual has, according to several of the basis of law, certain innate values. These are not given to you by any artificial means such as straw man, etc. This is given to you in other ways. I suggest people look it up so that they'll know what's going on. Each one of these differences is expressed differently slightly in each country, but the premise and basis of it is the same. The individual signing the paperwork is the originator of the credit, not the debit, the credit.
Yeah, well, no, we are aware of that. Yeah, well, aware of that over here. We actually have a book by a chap called Marcus McKeown. Marcus has been on the show. And we actually, we have been given a few copies of the book from Marcus to sell, and your listeners can actually go to the website, they'll see it. And it's basically, the book is entitled How the Banks Are Screwing You and What You Can Do About It. And he just blows open the whole idea that your signature, gives you the power, it creates the money. It's not the banks at all. So if any of your listeners want to pop along and have a look, yes, that's the actual title of the book, How the Banks Are Screwing You and What You Can Do About It. So a great title. It does what it says on the tins. Very good. Now, you're obviously doing your radio show every Sunday. Is there any of the news that we need to be aware of that we haven't covered or that you've talked on your show that we haven't heard about?
You want to know about news that you haven't heard?
Well,
is that it?
Well, we know about, what we've heard is also we know about the Ed Snowden and the NSA, and obviously him being in Russia in a transitional lounge somewhere. But I think Ecuador or Venezuela said they would take him in. They would take him in, and there's also an uproar with the Latin American countries, Bolivia being the main one, giving out about what happened about them, the president of Bolivia having his plane forced down so they could actually check the plane to make sure Ed Snowden wasn't on it. So there's an awful lot of countries now on the bandwagon having a go at America regarding not just the NSA, the whistleblowing, and them looking at all the communications and tracking the communications across Europe and a lot of countries. But obviously what happened to the president of Bolivia, there's a number of Latin American countries getting together and giving out about that to the States. So, how are things going over there at the moment? Because we've heard an awful lot going on over there with troop movements a lot of troop movements over there. The police state is kicking in more than anything over in America. And I was speaking to somebody there the other day in the States, and I said to them that, I know Ireland is going through a lot of austerity, but I wouldn't like to be living in the States at the moment.
They would like to implement what they've legislated. There's a couple of problems with that. Many of the things that they've stipulated as new laws cannot be enforced. The things that go against the Constitution cannot be used against the people. And there are too many people who have become aware enough to object to such things to allow for any kind of effort that would cover any sizable area. Now, that's only one part of it. The second part is that those people who are whose intent and purpose does not have our best interests in mind do not have the wherewithal to take such actions. You've probably heard martial law, you've heard police state, you've heard this and that. Problem with that is that most of law enforcement has enough to do with what they've already been dealing with. That's first. So they're not interested in adding to their workload. They don't feel like they're getting paid for what they do as it is. So that's part of it. Second part is that without comprehensive manpower and funding, none of these major actions that have been legislated can actually be put into force. You have to have something along the order of, and I'll stipulate 90% of the military being willing to support you in such efforts. As it stands presently, some 80 to 90% of the military does not support this. And it could be even more by now. The question is twofold. First of all, do the troops, to include law enforcement, wish to be seen as some sort of evil Gestapo, stomp on your head, nasty, or do they want to have that turned around to where they actually can re-garner their good reputation as actually being a good guy? And some 80 to 90% say, we want to be the good guy. Now, with only 20% left, you're going to have probably up to half of that number not show up, especially if you got the rest of the country gunning for you. You're going to go, oh, no, he ain't getting me in that meat grinder. So they're going to have about enough financial clout and personnel capability to secure a large outhouse, and that's about it.
Okay, because we said the same thing over here in Ireland. If our police force, which we are called the Gardaí over here, but if our police force actually put down tools with the army tomorrow, all this would stop. It would just stop. The only thing that's kind of keeping things going is that the Gardaí, our police force, are continuing doing what they're doing, even though we've had tapes, we've had bank exposures over here, we had recordings of conversations by bank officials. They've come out into the press, into the public, and basically they were saying what was going on and what they did when there was a big bailout for all the bondholders over here in Ireland. And if you go over on our website, OYMradio.com, we have a button for the YouTube channel. And if you go up to our YouTube channel, you'll actually hear some of the recordings of what the bankers were saying. Now, these are recordings that the public weren't supposed to hear. But what they did is they released these tapes, whoever released the tapes. And you can hear the bankers talking about how they're going to kind of screw the government and get them to give them the money to bail out the banks. And over here in Ireland, this is what's big at the moment. All these tapes are coming out. There's a number of tapes that have come out of what the bankers have been saying. But again, Ireland is heavily fluoridated over here. So there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of people kind of, ask you, what can you do attitude, And when you see countries like Egypt, and people, the uprising and getting involved, you kind of have to think, will Ireland ever do it? Will we ever wake up? But I know you said you and Neil Keenan had an interest in Ireland. Have you heard anything else regarding Ireland in particular?
Well, some things. One is that it's not going well. That Ireland, as small as the country is paying the majority of the taxes to the EU. I think that's ridiculous. It's just that there is quite a bit of political unrest though so far it's been kept under the covers pretty much. And yet, as well, social unrest in terms of a lack of satisfaction. I can't quite pay my bills. I can't quite eat right. I can't, this sort of thing. And as such, the same sickening signs as seen in Greece are beginning to show a little bit in Ireland. They've been showing here for a time now. They let one thing settle down so that they can do another. And it does not bode well for the people. Now, one of the main things that can be done is to get a simple product called Go-To Cola. And it's just exactly how it sounds, G-O-T-O, Cola. And it negates a lot of the effects of fluoridation. And if you spread that around, then you're apt to find that a lot of more people all of a sudden are aware. It doesn't negate all of it. You have to get away from it. And this means that you're going to end up with Brook-filled water filters and things of this nature, purified water, if possible. And I know that Ireland's not a rich country, but as much as possible, see if you can get the fluoridation out of the water. Bribe a public official. Yeah. This is a suggestion, not to put it in the water.
Yeah, well,
ignore what you had normally done. And let's miss a few treatments, see what happens.
Yeah, there's a big campaign over here.
I'm sure nobody will like it, but
yeah, well, there's a big campaign.
That's my suggestion. The problem, we have the same problem here. Doesn't do any good to fight City Hall. You cannot accomplish anything one person at a time. Well, if one persons at a time come out of hiding or out of their living room and start walking around, pretty soon you got a pretty good sized crowd. And if you have that sort of thing accomplished in cities all over the place, then you're in a position to start making demands, just like they did in Egypt.
Well, there is a big campaign over here about removing the water from, removing fluoride from the water over here in Ireland. 98% of Europe is unfluoridated, and we have been fluoridated since, Steve, I think it's
73, is it 73?
That was 60-something, was it?
Or maybe 63.
1963. So we've been fluoridated since 1963 over here. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why there's a lot of apathy over here in Ireland. We're not too sure, Now, do you have any idea, Drake, regarding, obviously, the way things are going at the moment, what we feel, I don't know how you feel about it, about the New World Order or the powers to be. We're still seeing chemtrails being sprayed. And basically, call us practical, but until we stop seeing chemtrails being sprayed, then we feel that the powers to be still have the upper hand. I mean, what is the state of play with them at the moment? What is the global situation with the powers to be?
Well, they're having problems, as I said before on a couple of different occasions, and this is not wasn't firm until recently, where they've been locked out of the collateral accounts. Now, what happens is that they make a deal with the holders of the collateral account to receive certain collateral certificates in their currency that allows them to monetize that into everyday cash that people can use. And being locked out on a consumer-based or consumer-oriented banking system means that the banks cannot come up with the excess currency that they once were able to come up with. And so, consequently, the money that is distributed is not coming back to the bank like it should, so the bank is running shorter and shorter on a steady basis. At some point or another, the banking system will reach its tipping point or its 0 point and find itself at where it can no longer meet its obligations. And at that point, then you're going to have some currency and banking and I would say countrywide upsets. similar to what took place in Egypt, as well as other places. Greece had a variety of protests. I'm surprised Ireland has not had more than it has. I'm surprised nobody here in the United States realizes what's going on and has stood up. You know, supposedly we're supposed to be a leader, and yet everybody's sitting around going, follow.
Yeah, I know.
So I'm not sure exactly, but that's the basic global situation. What you have to understand, the aligned nations are a smaller number. The unaligned nations are the majority. The unaligned nations are in agreement on finance. The unaligned nations would love to try to get a hold of some of, say, China's money or assets, and they've tried to beg, borrow, steal, and can't get it. And so consequently, the unaligned nations have stood strong. They're tired of a smaller country having to deal with somebody the size of, say, or capability of the United States going in and taking everything they want and then leaving. So they decided that they'd had enough of that, and it was time to change that, and they have been in process of doing that. So, you have to be aware that these things are prevalent and happening as we speak. Okay?
Yeah, no, got that. We just had a little bit of a glitch this end there with the technology. Hopefully it'll go away there. We just rattled a few cables, I think. But I know what you mean. Well, there just seems to be an awful lot going on globally with all the countries. I mean, we had obviously Cyprus. They actually took 60% of the savings, over 100,000 from savers in Cyprus, and apparently that's going to be a template for other countries across Europe.
Well, the other part was they were going to bring it here, and they wanted to do this and do that, and every time they said something, everybody screamed and said, "No, you ain't." The interesting thing in Cyprus is that some 85% of the normal deposits are not being made any longer.
Wow, okay.
They wanted it that way, but they got.
Okay.
So Cyprus banking is looking at going down the tubes.
Yeah, well, that will go down.
Voting with their feet. Huh?
I said, yeah, I mean, it will go down, but if they're looking to roll that and do that same template across other countries in Europe, then everybody's going to get hit.
Well, I'm not so sure that they're willing to take the heat that would be involved in that, both political, financial, and I don't think they want riots and whatnot. I think they want to try to avoid that situation, and that is that's their main concern. They're afraid that, in Ireland, that if they make enough people mad enough, there's liable not to be much of a bank left. I mean, the building is liable to get torn down in the process of making sure that it's dispersed where it should have been in the first place. I do personally disagree with the idea of violence. However, at one point or another, and it doesn't matter who it might be, how nonviolent, pleasant person it might be, you can push anybody to a point of no return, where they cannot any longer stand it. And they feel at that point a necessity to their very being of taking some kind of action. It's easy to go out into the street, walk down the block, pick up a rock, put it through a window. It's easy to take out authorities because there's not that many of them.
Yeah.
It's easy to miscarry what could be your own justice. It is easy to cause a very serious problem, and that very serious problem is where even though you remove a government, the one that replaces it can be worse. You have to plan ahead, have things set in such a manner that you know you're pretty sure as to the outcome. And I mean, by pretty sure, you know the people involved that are going to be sitting in seats of power, and that they will not only not abuse that power, but use it toward the beneficiary of the people, rather than a corporation or a government. This is the basis or ideology of those who have ruled in the past. They did so in such a manner that they went out among the people, and they were not guarded. They went out among the people to find out what's going on. How can I help you? And, you know, somebody sent alms, well, throw a coin in. Make sure that somebody who is capable and willing has employment. Those who are not really willing, well, don't give them quite enough to eat on.
Yeah.
So that they have an incentive to get it.
But
there's a lot of things that can be done.
But the whole idea
has to be done correctly.
Okay, well, the whole idea with the martial law thing, I mean, maybe that's what their plan is, to get people to a level that they start, you know, getting violent, and they can bring in curfews and martial law.
I don't think so. And the reason I don't is that I have word from higher sources that say no. And the manner in which they said no to me was pretty concise. Basically, if that were the case and that were ordered, some 80% of the military would turn against the government. And they don't want that. They have enough concern in terms of the militia, everyday people who are armed. They might be standing next to them and they don't even know they're there or who they are. They have enough concern with that. But to think that one of the major power structures within their own government would turn on them, does definitely give them reason not to. And at the point, what I was told is, at the point that some idiot decided to declare martial law, then the military in our country will make its sweep. We will take out each and every last treasonous thing that we have as our representatives or are in office of any kind at any level. And at that point, then we would become a free people instantly. Now, you're right that they do want to do such a power play, but the problem is that they have been gutted in the process of continuing their operation of their little moneymaker. They have been gutted in a lot of different ways. A lot of people now are also aware enough to keep an eye on things. And you don't know if that's the clerk, the janitor, your buddy down the hall. You have no idea. So the concept in and of itself won't hold water. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's understandable. And what about, I mean, you know, the whole idea with them going over to Europe and they're helping I'm not going to say rebels, the terrorists in Syria, because they want to obviously take over Syria, and when they get Syria, they'll then go to Iran. And what we've heard, and we don't know how true this is, but, you know, maybe the plan or the strategy for them is when they go up to Iran, go into Iran, they will close down the Straits of Hormuz, blame it on Iran, and then that will just start major problems. I mean, I think we are in World War III at the moment, but if they go into Iran, then it's really going to, you know, be a keg of dynamite.
Well, there's a problem with that plan. First of all, things in Syria are not going the way they want them to, and they are unable to get the authorization to assist for whatever purpose. To go a step further, Iran just elected a moderate, and I know some things of that individual where he is willing to actually start true and real negotiations. The problem they had was the previous president mouthing off, offering threats, and things of this nature that were inappropriate at best, and did not do them any favors on the world stage. This man, you'll find, has already stated that negotiations are open, and we are going to be a reasonable country to deal with. That's a huge change from what it used to be. The thing about it is that the sanctions are hurting the people, and the basis for their government, the ideology, philosophy behind it, is to take care of or assist the people, not hurt them. Consequently, you're going to find that a lot of these things that could not take place before are going to take place in the very near future. One of those is the International Atomic Energy Commission being able to actually go in and see everything for the very first time. And at that point, then they will find, whether somebody likes the idea or not, that they are not producing or looking to produce nuclear weapons. Then you've got the problem with Israel. The problem with Israel is not the people. It is certain hard cases in the government. Their leadership has decided to play part of the script to start World War III of taking on Iran. Logistically, it's not a good deal. It'd be a one-way flight for the for aircraft, and it would be a quagmire worse than anything that anybody's run across, Vietnam or anything else you can think of. Afghanistan with the Russians were smart. They left. These things, you cannot go into a man's backyard with a gun and tell him what to do. He will eventually find some kind of a way to get even with you, or at the very least fight back. And nobody has enough troops to control an entire population. So the situation is that militarily, Israel's been having some serious problems. Key personnel, as well as a fair amount of the regular troops, are absent when they're called up. So this means that the idea of being obtuse or being a hard case in dealing with certain people is disagreed with. Something unheard of in Israel. And yet it's there, and it's become a fact. And it's not something they can ignore. So, I'm looking for a possible, not probable, but possible moderation in Israel.
Okay.
That would be something that would help.
Do you think there will be a false flag somewhere along the line, that they will throw in a false flag somewhere? I think we're due one now.
There are several things that they could do, but there's a problem with that. You have to have much more definitive proof than what has been offered in the false flags that have been accomplished here in this country by the same types of people. So there'd have to be a worldwide detection of launch of missiles. The whole Air Force is flying towards Israel, or something of this nature, before you're going to get acceptance of the false flag. Everybody is, as I said, there are way too many people now who are aware of that idea and that tactic for it to be really easy to do anymore. It used to be, well, we seen them, and that was good enough. You didn't have any bomb fragments with somebody's name on it or anything like that. You just had, I seen them go and do it. Well, was it who they said it was? And, show me the pictures, show me the video. Or is the video doctored? I mean, there are so many silly ways to take a fact and change it around to your advantage that presently, I personally don't believe, even if it was well orchestrated, that they can get away with it. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, I think, we're seeing, it's like a scales, I think, at the moment. And I think people are obviously more aware and more awake. And when something does happen, even if it's, I mean, like the Sandy Hook and the Boston bombing, I mean, people are kind of straight away, I even said it, that I felt that was a false flag, and that's just my own opinion. Steve, what do you think of that? Did you think Boston and Sandy Hook was a false flag?
Well, I think we know, anyone who's listening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we put that to bed a long time ago. That within hours of these events happening, there was plenty of video footage and experts giving expert testimony, if you like, through on the internet to kind of truth media, and they basically debunked. I mean, Sandy Hook, when you see the guy getting up and giving his little speech, he's laughing and joking beforehand, even though he's supposed to have lost his daughter less than 24 hours previously. And even the Boston bombing, when you see the video footage of behind the scenes of that, where they're kind of preparing the stage, if you like, it just looks like it has false flag written all over it. But I mean, I reckon we will have plenty more to come, and it just goes to prove that when they do happen, people still believe the official line of events, which is kind of scary, because it just goes to prove the effect that the television, how that can actually help people believe it, as has been said on this show before. If it's not on TV and it actually happens, nobody will believe it, because we get our news from
Exactly.
TV. But Drake, there's a couple of questions have come in for you there, and one is from a chap called Sentinent. He's wondering, can we ask Drake what's happening with the liens on the banks?
Okay. That's Neil Keenan's case, and if you'll check our website, we put that out today. His last, actually, there's 3 videos, and that's covered in there. That is his case, and everything's ready to go. All we have to do is give the word, but if that was done presently, it would interfere with what we're doing with the collateral accounts. So that has to be on hold until such time as we free the collateral accounts. But it's ready to go, and this time there is much better documentation for our side than we had before. So it's going to get very interesting very quickly. I'd say it would be a matter of days before there were serious problems.
Okay, and just
Okay?
for anyone who wants to check that out, Drake, can you just throw the website address out there for them?
That's AmericanNationalMilitia.com.
American National.
All one word.
Yeah, I'll get that up ASAP.
Yep.
And what does Drake think of the New World Order? Is it going to be an inevitable outcome, or do you reckon it's still preventable?
Well, the New World Order consists of your oligarch and support teams that basically wish to rule us, as everybody should know. The problem with that is that, first of all, as the collateral accounts have been locked away from them so that they no longer have access, that limits their capability to acquire assets. So they're financially limited in that respect. Second part of it is that as the collateral accounts are released, then also they'll have to deal with a serious problem from the central banks. And the way that plays out is this. As the central banks are required to either surrender their charter and cease to exist, or attempt to pay back what they have borrowed, stolen, etc., and or at least make an interest payment, they will call each and every last one of their investment loans due and payable. So each and every last of these huge corporations that supposedly have so much money are going to have to pay back everything that they borrowed. And you're talking billions of dollars each. And most of the large corporations do not have that kind of cash capability. However, bonuses that have been paid, as well as wages, holdings of individuals that have profited dearly from the activities can be called back. And you're going to find a whole bunch of the oligarchs stripped, not only of their corporate position in terms of power, but of the corporation itself and their personal wealth. Each and every last dime of it needs to be paid to the central bank in order to supplement the system to an extent where it does not falter. Problem is, these financial institutions owe 4% per annum from the get-go. You're talking about several years. It can only be paid in gold bullion, and they don't have that kind of assets available. Hence, they go broke. Thus, they lose their financial capability. Now, this will not be a destruction of the banking system, but will put the banking system in a position where we get to call the shots in terms of restructuring it to where it is open and above board and operates correctly. And that's the differential between what was and what will be, and basically what's going on presently. Right now we're waiting for a couple of things to come through. As most people know, on Saturdays and Sundays not a lot happens necessarily, and on Saturdays and Sundays most government offices are closed. So you lose a couple of days in the waiting. I hope to hear something soon in terms of hopefully this coming week. And if that takes place, then within a few days, we should start hearing some tangible results. Okay?
Okay. We just going back to what you said there about the banks. I mean, true capitalism is that if the banks, don't work out or they lose their money, they go bang and they close down. But we don't have that over here. We had corporatocracy where obviously the banks got bailed out by the taxpayer. So who's to say that if the banks are in trouble again, that they don't come knocking on the door of the taxpayer and wanting the people to bail them out again?
Exactly. That's the other part of this. Not every country is situated similarly to the U.S., UK, etc. And consequently, as Neil stipulated, and I have stipulated as well, Ireland and Greece and a few other countries will be given special consideration in terms of making sure that the people are taken care of so that they are alleviated of the yoke that they're being told they got to bear. The great load of the whole of Europe resting on Ireland. Give me a break. That's ridiculous. So consequently, those people who are in a position to rectify the situation will be in a position to fix it. And Neil and I will be right there to help. Now, something everybody does not realize about what the situation is that Neil and I had run across some problems. And due to that fact, we're seeking legal assistance in order to accomplish our goals. However, that's in the works. The other part of it is that we had extensive talks about Cyprus, Greece, Ireland, and several other countries that, through no fault of their own, have been put into precarious situations in terms of their survival. We're going to try to alleviate all of that one way or another. Now, there are nice ways and not so nice ways to alleviate things. So that will vary according to the resistance we come across.
Jake,
okay?
Just out of curiosity, how come the New World Order, knowing what Neil is doing, how come they haven't taken him out?
Well, the Indonesian military is keeping an eye on him. He's got personal bodyguards and a few other safeguards in place that have so far prevented them the capability of taking them out.
Not that they haven't tried.
Well, they've tried several times. They tried recently. If you watch that video, there was a gas leak, and it was definitely done on purpose. Some of the security was a little bit lacking, and consequently they were able to get to a gas line that was critical, close enough to that it would have hurt everybody. But the main thing is that now they're aware that they are definitely going to try stuff. Now we have people standing around watching and backups to go with them. So, and there's more help on the way. So this is not how can I say this? This is not your average situation, and it's not your average people we're dealing with. I would like nothing better than to be in close proximity to Neil, for the simple fact that I'm also a fighter, as he is. And between the two of us, we probably handle our weight with no problem.
Okay, well, no, it's good that Neil has some kind of protection, because you know as well as I do, and everybody else does, that any chance they have to take somebody out. I mean, that chap who was a journalist for the Rolling Stone magazine, apparently he was going to reveal some information. I'm not too sure whether it was about the NSA or the FBI. And have you heard any more news about that?
Just a little bit.
Okay, you there?
You there, Greg?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of fizzled a little bit, but you're back.
Okay. I might not have been standing close enough to the phone or something. There's been several suicidings, okay?
Yeah.
Either a convenient accident or whatever, for people that had information, personal, direct information, as well as documentation that would have blown things open. Now, by that, it would have shown that people ordered murders and the whole 9 yards, and they didn't want that information out. And if you'll note, there's no documentation found each and every time, just a dead body. And that's one of the ways in which they work. This is why, when I get something, I publish it. This is why the website is partially critical. That's why this show is partially critical. The show itself offers a venue for anybody who is valid at all in order to present their case, ask questions, be a part of the show. And I intend to keep it that way. To me, it's important that Ireland hear what's going on, what has transpired, what is or is not valid news. You've got one thing going on, and this is something that people do need to be aware of. The NATO group, some time ago, started its largest propaganda campaign in its history. So you're talking $50 billion or more in order to put out false information, hire hackers to cause problems with technical difficulties, etc. They do not want the word to get out as it has been. They would love to garner control of the Internet so that shows like this cannot happen, so that you can only state what the state tells you can say. Now, if that's not communistic, socialistic, or whatever handle you want to put on it, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
But the crux of this is this. Everybody needs to realize and understand that they have the right to be free. Our Creator gave us the freedom of will to decide, believe or not, as we so choose. Not as we are told to by somebody in government or somewhere else, or the guy or the dude with a gun. You might say, oh, yeah, of course I believe. And you walk along your way and don't get shot. That's a little different than actually kowtowing. At the time, it may look suspicious, but live to fight another day is a coward's way. A hero would attack the guy. Well, heroes don't necessarily live too long, so bear that in mind. Can you do more damage over a period of time in terms of what your capabilities are? Or is it one of those flash-in-the-pan things where you just happen to be physically capable to take out one soldier?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, I know what you mean. Do you think that Ed Snowden, the NSA whistleblower, do you think he is legit, or what do you think that was planned? That he is kind of on the inside, but doing that for a reason?
Well, I think it was legit. The reason I say that is because some of the stuff he put out, he just simply validated stuff everybody already knew. I had known for years that they were doing that. There's a movie out called Enemy of the State, and Gene Hackman's in it. And he stipulates that there's acres of mainframe computers wired into everything. You make a phone call, use a credit card, they know where you are, who you are, and what's going on. That you bought some kind of chips or something. Yeah, I zoned out again, didn't I?
Yeah, it seems your audio seems to be dropping in and out for some reason. I don't know why. We're trying to adjust the levels here. Can you hear us?
Anyway,
can hear you
the idea is that they have hundreds of acres of computers listening to everything.
Yeah.
They have code word or flag words. If you have that within your title, or if you have that within your email itself, it can be flagged, and then they check you out. If need be, they listen. I'm on the NSA watch list. They think I'm dangerous, and the reason they do is because I call for a replacement of the government we have. I call for this to be a nonviolent civil transition, not a revolution, although it would be revolutionary in doing so. Egypt was a good example of what can be done when the people and the military work together. Now, you've got a lot of work to do. Now, they suspended the Constitution. Now, whether that Constitution was written improperly or not, I have no idea. What we are about is to go back to the original documentation, 1787 Constitution, including the 13th Amendment. There are stipulations in that will subjugate a combination of the government as well as our legal or judicial system. Those people who commit felonious crimes of whatever level while in office are to be adjudicated for that crime. Don't care if you're a Secretary of State, don't care if you're a Justice Department Secretary, doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that justice is served. If an average person does some of those things, they're immediately arrested and put in jail.
Totally agree with you.
That should be the rule of the land as well for anybody.
Yeah.
And those who knew, and it can be proved, also go to jail. If Obama knew, bingo. And then he knew about Benghazi. Sorry, bud. I know it's already come out. So that means that he is an accessory after the fact or during the fact of at least 4 counts of manslaughter. I won't say murder because I don't know that would stick, but manslaughter definitely. Yeah. 4 counts. Well, the man needs to go to jail.
Well, we've said, Drake, this end.
Along with Clinton.
Yeah, we've said this end that even though politicians, when they leave their role after when they've served their purpose in the government and they retire or they retire on their pension, if they were deemed to be, if there was something going on when they were in government at the time, regardless of them being out of government, they should still be arrested and held responsible because it was on their watch.
Well, those people who committed treasonous acts, there's been several votes taken by people that are now retired who knew what they were doing, and the legislation they voted for that passed was directly against our sovereign rights and the Constitution. That's an act of treason. They should not be getting a pension. They should be sitting in a jail cell. And we intend to prosecute to the fullest. Those who voted for the Homeland Security Act are going. Period.
Okay.
And, I hope these people understand that we intend to do a thorough, complete, absolute house cleaning.
Yeah.
You're not going to get your pension. You ain't going to be fishing every day. You're going to be in a jail cell. There's a difference between making a mistake, an honest mistake, and owning up to it, and purposely making a mistake. Whether you thought it was righteous at the time or you got paid for it or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there, and I fully agree.
Well, I totally agree with you there. I think it should be the same over here in Ireland, that all politicians and civil servants or anybody directly or indirectly involved who knew what was going on should be held accountable and liable for their actions.
Exactly.
You know, well, listen.
I fully agree.
We've got.
If Neil and I can, what we want to try to do is to set up certain help or assist in some way, setting up things that will attend to these problems. Ireland's been occupied forever by foreign powers. That should cease, and totally. There should be no coalition government. Ireland should rule itself as a sovereign nation that it is. Greece should not be subject to the financial whims of some fat cat banker someplace. They should be allowed to live, okay? Here's how we can do this. It has to be like this, this, and this. If you can live with that, then everything goes as it was. And that sort of thing can be brought to bear. Now, one of the things, and I'm not anti-union, but some of the things that have come about in terms of socialist activities by unions, it curdles my milk. It messes with me terribly. I get totally incensed and just plain flat mad when somebody's making 70-some grand a year and wants more for a part-time job. Give me a break.
Yeah.
They're not, the highest paid people in the country, and they want more.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I know.
Second job.
I know.
Do put these people that think they're above things because there's a large group of them, or the fact that they can interfere with a lot of lives, in the position of having to deal with things as the average person does. When you get to that point in social structure, then you have a situation where no one is above the law, no matter who they are. You kill somebody, you answer for it. You do something wrong, you answer for it. And no, you don't just pay a fine or off.
Yeah. Well, it's
something grievous, intentional, and totally stupid, tough.
It's going back to common law, Drake. I mean, we have to go back to common law. You know.
Well, that's one of the things that's going to be reinstituted through several legal means that are already set to go.
Yeah. Well, that's what
we're going to start here in America and see whether or not it's contagious.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. Okay, well, listen, I'm conscious of the. I'm conscious of the time. Drake, I'm just conscious of the time there because I know you have to have a chat with your listeners on Blog Talk Radio about the last your show as well as their show. So I'm not going to keep you because you have to have that chat. Denise, if you want to give us the information about Blog Talk Radio, and Drake, a big thank you to yourself coming on. If you want to tell us your website address or any details that you want to give out to our listeners, please go ahead.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, first of all, Drake and Company, we broadcast every Sunday at noon Central Time in the United States, and that converts, I think we said, to, 6 or 7 hours later your time, Alan?
Yeah, I think it's 5 or 6 hours, difference,
Right, okay, because right now it is 20 minutes till 3 here.
Yeah.
In the afternoon. So, I don't know if it's 20 minutes till 9 p.m. your time, is that correct?
It's a 5 hour difference, yeah.
Okay, all right. Anyway, and you can find us on blogtalkradio.com, and the name of our program is Universal Voice. And again, we broadcast Drake every Sunday at noon Central Time, and then we have a Wednesday evening program with Tanath from the Silver Legion, as well as Sunfire from the Galactic Federation of Planets, and they discuss with Drake spirituality and the ET Ascension type discussions on Wednesdays. And we have a third program on Friday nights, and that is Eagle's Nest. and we discuss health and social issues, those kinds of things. And that is on Friday evenings in the evening at 7 p.m. our time. So that would be in the wee hours of the morning, your time, I do believe.
Brilliant information. Well,
Okay.
listen, Denise.
Also, Drake's website, I wanted to give out his website address one more time.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
And that is American National Militia, all one word, .com. That's Drake's personal website. We can be found also at Universal Voice on Facebook. We have an open group on Facebook. And we have a website also. It is UVRN, as in Universal Voice Radio Network, but it's uvrn.net.
Excellent.
Okay.
Getting loads of information out there with the websites and the shows. Well done. And Denise, thanks again for hooking up with Drake as well. This is the first time we've done this, and it's great that we had one or two little audio glitches, but then again, that wasn't too bad. We got it working. But thanks again for hooking up and hooking up with OYM over here in Ireland.
Thank you, Alan and Steve. Thank you so very much. Oh, and one other thing, I had one of our listeners correct. A little earlier we discussed Go-To-Cola.
Yeah.
And the actual correct spelling of that is G-O-T-U, and then the word cola is with a K, K-O-L-A. So it's G-O-T-U and then K-O-L-A.
Excellent stuff. So Go-To-Cola. So we'll have to look into that. Again, just say a big thank you from Steve. If you want to, last words there, Steve?
Yeah, thanks very much. It's been educational and an eye opener. I did find some of the what Alan and Drake were talking about. I did find some of it kind of difficult to follow because I'm kind of more in touch with kind of local issues, if you like, and some of the foreign issues I wouldn't be as well versed on those. So that's why I was kind of fairly quiet, but interesting and eye opening nonetheless.
Brilliant. Denise, thanks again, and we'll have to hook up again sometime and have a chat. The world needs stations like ourselves to get out there and get the information cross country and get the information out there. So again, thanks again to yourself and Drake. Take it easy, and we'll talk to you. We'll catch up in the future, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Brilliant stuff. That was Denise there, who was doing the production for Blogtalk Radio with Drake, and it's the first time that we've actually hooked up and did something like that with another station in the States and had Drake on live. So it's interesting information. Again, you listen to it, take from it what you want. Some of it you might believe, some of it you don't want to believe, or some you've heard before. It's just the way it is, Steve, isn't it?
It is, and unfortunately, we did notice that there were a couple of negative comments in relation to some of what Drake was speaking about. But as Alan said there, it's all about just listening to what other people say, and you don't necessarily have to believe. I feel like I'm preaching to the converted, but I mean, there's certain things that Drake or other people would say that I don't necessarily believe at this moment in time. However, I'm not going to poo-poo all over it because I don't believe it, because with the fluid belief system, at some point in the future, I may see more evidence that will, kind of make me revisit my steps, and then I'll probably think, that's something I didn't happen to believe at a particular moment in time. But I may find at some future date that it is true, and then I will, obviously change my outlook. But that's the beauty of the fluid belief system, because it's not set in stone. And just as a quick example, I mean, my father, we spoke earlier, Alan spoke earlier with Drake in relation to chemtrails. My father has done his own little bit of research. He's 71 years of age. He believes in that a lot of what's said about the chemtrails. He's doing his own, as I say, does his own little bit of research. And my father-in-law is also 71, and we were at an event here today locally, and we actually seen a chemtrail. So my wife pointed it out and said, "Oh, there's a chemtrail," and there was an interesting discussion ensued between my father and my father-in-law, and my father-in-law, who's normally very vocal, and he has the voice of thunder, and when you hear him speak, everyone kind of listens. He's a real growly, gravelly voice. But he said what he said. He said his piece anyway, and said, you know what, you want to get your head examined if you believe all that. That's all nonsense. And then my wife, myself, my father were all able to kind of quote little pieces of evidence that we had seen and heard. And all of a sudden, instead of being in the majority, he found himself in the minority because, here was 3 other independent people who'd all done their own little bit of research, challenging what he said. And basically what he was saying was just based on his own opinion. It wasn't based on research or anything like that.
Just no hard facts. Again,
Yeah.
You deal with people like this on a daily basis where they have an opinion and you have to ask them what the opinion is based on. And a lot of the time, I'm not being bad to your father-in-law, but a lot of the time it's not based on anything. Just probably something said in passing on the news, or somebody else says it and then they're just repeating what's being said. We are all on a different path of knowledge. And some people are further down the road than other people. And sometimes, although the people who are further down the road might want to educate the people who are further back down the road, sometimes you have to wait for them to catch up, and you can't please everybody. The information that we talk about, the information that we have guests on and they talk about, you're not going to please everybody. If somebody's going to get upset or not like what's being said, that's just a fact of life. So, as we say, it's information. You take what you want from it. If it resonates with you, great. If some of it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's just the way it is. But that's what we try and do. We try to get people on to give their opinion on what they think based on their research or their knowledge. And then you as the listener will actually decide what you're happy with or resonates with you. And take it from there. And as I say, we're all on the path of knowledge and discovery. And some people are further down the road on different things. Like myself and Steve we have an interest in the communication side, and we're quite knowledgeable on that side, I'd like to think, because of our background. As some other people might be very knowledgeable on fluoride, but not as knowledgeable in the communication side. So it's just, swings and roundabouts, really. We all have our pet interest. Now, we were talking about protests earlier on. And myself and Steve have done our fair share of being in protest groups and going to meetings and talking to people about stuff and having our say. And, at the end of the day, you have to look at, is it working? Does it work? And if it doesn't, then what's the point in doing it? And we've said it before about protests that, at the end of the day, the majority of them, although it's all goodwill and everything else, but, nothing ever gets done. That 100,000 people march that we talked about earlier, where did it go to? It didn't go anywhere. Didn't do anything. And, there's over 100,000 people at that march. So, I don't know. I mean, answers on the postcard. If anybody has a better solution, I don't know. Because I don't have it. But I'm happy to, if there's local county marches, I'm happy to go down and be involved. But, I don't see them having much of an impact. Maybe...
No.
Go on.
Sorry, I was going to say no, but I was going to say, do you remember the meeting that we went to? It was a local meeting. It must have been about I'd say it must be 2 years ago. Has to be. No, maybe it's not 2 years ago. Anyway, it was over. It's over a year ago. But thanks to years and years of fluoridation, I can't rightly remember. Was it last year? I think it could have been Alan. I don't know. Alan will remember. He always does. But we did go to a local meeting, and it was when they were talking about the sewage, the water charges, and they were talking about see, out here in the countryside you have a lot of farmers and they have the septic tank. That's what it was, the septic tank charge.
That was in Kells.
In Kells
last year, yeah.
Kells County last year, was it?
Yeah, last year, yeah.
But I remember we went to that, and there was a lot of people asking. A lot of people were asking questions. There was a lot of angry people, a room full of angry people, but they were all asking, good questions. There was a lot of interesting questions, but they were all kind of questions after the fact. It's like as if, well, there's going to be this charge coming in, so all their questions were based on, after the fact, if you like. No one was asking, well, hang on a second, why is this coming in? Why are we going to let it come in? And at various times throughout the meeting, some people would ask questions, and then an answer would come from the people at the top, and then there would be more anger. And then I think I stood up at one point and I said, gave a little piece of information, and then Alan stood up and Alan backed me up, and he gave some more information, and you could have heard a pin drop in the room, because a lot of these meetings actually, they kind of assume, well, what can we do after this new tax or this new charge? How can we deal with it? But no one ever kind of goes, well, hang on a second. We are the people. We can decide whether we want this or not. We have a voice. And it was only when after, say, we finished giving our presentation, it wasn't even a presentation, it was just kind of an off the cuff. We didn't go to this meeting with the intention of standing up and addressing the crowd, but we just went as bystanders, same as everyone else. But when we'd given our information that we had, we found a lot of people were they had this kind of weird look on their face, like, who the hell are these guys, and what do they mean? We don't have to accept it, and we were offered more of a solution than the people who were chairing the meeting. And we did find afterwards, when meeting was over and we left, there was kind of a beeline towards us in the car park, and people were kind of coming up and asking us questions because it was new information that they'd never heard before. And that's kind of what we're saying, that, as Alan said, about some people are just kind of further down the line, and every so often it's kind of nice to remember that we are. Like, I am where I am today. There's things I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. There's still things I don't agree with. But maybe that's just where I am in the line. Could be people further up the line telling me things that I just, I go, yeah, okay, fair enough. I don't believe it. But it's just because of where I am in the line. And, I think we just need to be more accommodating to other people. Like, for argument's sake, my father-in-law. I mean, I love the man to bits. He's the best father-in-law in the world. Well, he's the only one I have. And I have to understand that he's 71 years of age. Maybe information in relation to chemtrails is just a little bit too much for him, and maybe he can't accept it. He can't entertain the thought because it goes against the grain that he's
it's conditioning.
Conditioned, but he's been obviously conditioned for 71 years, and maybe I'm rocking his boat, and it's probably the wrong thing to do, and maybe the whole attack the tax, he's part of that. He has joined that. That's something tangible. That's something he can sink his teeth into, and he can understand. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, if there's any solutions, I mean, maybe we need to have a meeting where we can look at like practical solutions. Yeah, I know that Haggis said on MSI there that about protests and being angry. Well, people are going to get angry when they know that's just a human reaction to what's going on. I'm not saying it solves the problem, but you're going to get angry when you find out what the banks have been up to when the realization kicks in. Protesting, again, I don't know. Maybe we need to have a brainstorming session with people who actually actively want to do something, but have it more constructive. A constructive solutions meeting, that what can we do practically rather than just march with banners and signs outside.
Yeah, I think the time for marching with banners and signs has passed. I think, again, this is putting my disclaimer in. This is just my own personal opinion, but I think it's pitchforks that we need to be marching with.
Yeah,
and not banners.
I think it's either all or nothing. It's Egypt or nothing.
Yeah,
basically.
When the government see a group of people walking down the road with banners, do they fear them? No, they're marching with banners. When they see people marching down the road with pitchforks, I think the government would have a different outlook.
Yeah, definitely. We just got a question there on the chat facility regarding the glasses that Gary talked about last week. We did get information, and they were called. Oh, I'm going to have to try and track them down now. Well,
Alan will track now. Yeah, we got the name off the chap. He did send us some information during the week, and we got a pair each. We've been wearing them all day and all night, and I must say, my eyesight has improved tenfold. No, I wish. Yeah, I think Alan does have an email there. We did get some information in relation to them and prices and where they can be got. I'm not sure if we're going to be getting some anytime soon due to limited funds.
Right, there you go. I'll put it in the OYM chat room there. That's the name of the glass, night glasses. Yukon Night Ranger 5x42 glasses. Cost around 368 sterling, give or take. If you go onto eBay, you'll find them. But I like the idea where you can hook it up to video, okay, and record the video. That's pretty good, And Gary said he's seen a few things with them, so...
I wonder, could you just pop down to Specsavers and, if you need your glasses and say, instead of getting this second pair for son, could I get a night vision pair? Do you reckon the...
Generation 3 for $3,000?
Yeah.
Generation 3 that... Well, I don't know whether Generation 3 night fishing goggles are illegal over here in Ireland. I know they're illegal in the UK, but are they illegal over here?
I'm sure everything's illegal over here.
You know?
That's an interesting question.
Well, customs say, you know, now lads, what are these for? Oh, they're for me grandmother. She's not good with her eyes, so I got them from my grandmother.
She keeps tripping at night when she gets up going to the loo because she can't afford to put a light on thanks to the austerity measure. So I'm buying her these for a Christmas present.
Yeah, that would be a good excuse. Right, okay, so a quick catch up before we shut down for tonight. Next week we have, planning to have Bill Maloney on.
Good old Bill.
Good old Bill. So, Pine and Mash Films. So, hopefully we'll get Bill on next week and we'll get an update on what's been going on. And obviously we're going to be talking all things Jimmy Savile and all that stuff, and Ben Fellows and stuff, and what's been going on what he's been up to. And again, just a precautionary note for the people who didn't hear the start of the show. If you're obviously a truther, you're in the truth movement, and people are sending you emails with file attachments, just be careful. You know, have a look at what happened. Luke Radosky, who was sent pornographic child porn by somebody who pretended to be a Blinderberg whistleblower, but he wasn't. They were trying to stitch him up, and that's exactly what they'll try and do to anybody who's trying to get out the truth. So that's what you need to do. Just be careful with your emails and attachments. Now, the other thing is, obviously we got mentioned as well. We mentioned it at the start of the show. Today is the anniversary of 7/7, the London bombings 2005. So we did a little mention before, at the start of the show, before we got Drake on. So just if you didn't know, this is the anniversary of that anyway, 7/7, on what went on. And there's a few programmes on Sky TV. Dr. Nick Colstrom and Tony Farrell have a one that's repeated on a regular basis regarding 7/7. And they talk about it. So if you're watching Sky TV, you'll be able to tune into that, Controversial TV or Showcase TV. And also, don't forget to watch Russia Today as well. Great news. The information they have out there is brilliant. It really is good stuff. We just wish our mainstream media or junk media would actually do the same thing and report on it, but unfortunately they don't. But any thoughts for the week, Steve?
Yeah, I got a mention in on the MSI chat earlier from Ian, and Ian was wondering if we might give this a mention at the end of the show, and I said I would, so here goes. Hi guys, maybe you would give a quick mention about MMS curing malaria. Seemingly there's leaked proof that the Red Cross cured 154 malaria cases with MMS. I do have a link here to the video. I'm going to post that in the chat now any moment. And Ian says, please make this viral. Dr. Humble is asking folks to watch it and also to share it. And share and share and keep on sharing. So I'm going to post that in the chat room right now. So yeah, I'm going to check that out myself when I get home. Yeah, MMS, you can't beat it.
And also Mick the Fish, don't forget liffysoundfm.ie on 96.4 FM, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Monday. Tune in to Mick, he's there. And you can listen to it on a proper radio, because it is a community radio station, and you can listen to it on the internet as well.
And it's going to be a good one, because Mick says he has Thomas Sheridan on tomorrow evening. That's Thomas of the... What was the name of the film again? I can never remember. End of an Era.
End of an Era.
End of an Era.
E-I-R-E.
Yeah.
Right, okay, well, it's coming near that time, so we will say goodnight. We're going to pass over. Do you know if Vibe is doing anything tonight?
Yeah, it's probably going to be having a chat on the radio.
Chat on the radio?
I don't know. Okay. I do apologise. No, I've no information.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Vibe will be on, I think, after us. I think Vibe's going to be on. So for everybody there, take it easy. Stay safe. If you have any links of interest, send us them over. And we will send them out on our links email as usual. If there's any news, keep us posted. For myself, Alan James, take it easy, and we'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.
And for myself, Stephen George, have a great week and enjoy the sunshine. We'll do it all again in 7 days. Take care. Bye-bye.
Open your mind.